Welcome to the Banter at the Counter podcast here at Phone Savers in Killarney. I'm John Lynch and I'll be bringing you fun and insights from everyday customers, inspiration from entrepreneurs and from my own life journey. So come on in and join me as I deep dive into the secrets of life and success. Folks, today who we have is an Olympic skier who actually came 31st out of 83 contestants in the Alpine Great Giant Slalom event in Turin, in Italy in 2006, and also came second in the Scottish Championships, I think. Am I correct? So, folks, without any further ado, Olympian Thos Foley, welcome to Banter at the Counter.
Thank you.
So, Thos, you come from Kenmare, right? Growing up in Kenmare and having ideas about skiing in the Olympics doesn't come to everybody in Kenmare. In fact, it doesn't come to anybody pretty naturally. Why did you choose this?
When I was a young boy, the rally used to pass by the house, right next door around the Rugby, and it still does actually. And I always thought I want to be a rally driver when I grew up. And I suppose I was just attracted by the exhilaration and the excitement. So I set about always on my bike, imitating like a lot of kids, the noise and jumping off things. And then it went from climbing trees to jumping off walls, and then to kayaking and wakeboarding. And
it wasn't enough.
I guess I never had a culture of cars around me, although my grandfather was a mechanic. Obviously it was the idea of exhilaration that attracted me, and that's how I ended up skiing really ultimately.
So we all kind of have ideas, thoughts across our mind. I want to become a rally driver, I want to join the circus, whatever it might be, climb the highest mountain and stuff. But to fulfill these dreams, it takes something you have to be nearly obsessed or be average, don't you?
I would say I was definitely obsessed. I think that there were so many times. I mean, I started skiing on holidays with our family. We work in tourism, like a lot of people.
You come from business background, Thos?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Your family owns a restaurant, am I correct?
So I grew up around the pub business and just laterally more so the food, like daytime food business. My auntie had a place and my mum worked there for many years with Grania, and she was always busy setting up a restaurant or other or a new business. So over the years in Kenmare, I was always involved with that side of things. So it was very intense in the summer with no opportunity for holidays. It was just shoulder to the wheel and get stuck in. Make the money in the summer, harvest away.
Hard work,
it was good work and it was fun work. And I got into working in the business at a very young age, around 13. And then I would always save up my money for something or other. And, by the time I was 16, we'd already been in a couple of winter holidays with the family, and I suppose people were noticing that I was pretty good at it. So it was just sort of, you went on holidays and you fell in love with skiing, right? That is exactly at what age, 10 to 14? Well, I remember going out at 10 on my first trip, and the first 2 days were pretty hard going, and I often recount this when I'm instructing to young people or students, because I coach as well.
Great.
And I would say, look, I remember what it was like the first 2 days when I was skiing. I didn't really like it very much because my sisters were both skiing already and they were better than me, and I didn't like that too much. So no, it was tough going. And once you got familiar with the equipment, I was off. And when I say I was off, skiing is an incredible, exhilarating sport. There's nowhere else where you can, where you are completely responsible for your own well-being and safety to the extent you are when you put on a pair of skis and you go to the top of the mountain. No amount of bravado or anything is going to save you. You literally have to be reliant on yourself. And I guess I was always pushing the boundaries as a kid in Ireland, you know, and then it just, for me, it opened up a whole new world of possibilities on in the slopes and the mountains in France where we would go. And, you know, I would always be challenging myself, and every day was a new challenge. So there was no limit to how far, well, I didn't see any limit to how far you could take that challenge. You know, I was watching ski movies of great skiers, and they were all very inspirational.
It seems like you're nearly jumping out of an aircraft without a parachute or something. I was watching the Olympics last night to get a bit of a feel for, because I don't ski. And to be honest, I nearly welled up. I thought, that's something else. Like, to even go skiing is one thing, but to go off and represent your country, I mean, before that though, to get there in Ireland, right, to go from Kenmare to skiing in the Winter Olympics, that's a massive bridge to bridge, like, by yourself. I mean, did you have supports? Were you you were the first man to represent Ireland in the Winter Olympics in skiing?
I wasn't the first man.
In the giant slalom, like? Yeah. I
don't think there was anyone else that did the giant slalom. My friend Pauli Schwarzacker, Joyce, a really lovely man. He grew up in St. Anton, and his mum's from Clontarf, a lovely lady, Mary. And, well, I suppose how we first got to meet each other was in Kiltiernan, where there is a ski centre.
The artificial ski club.
Yeah, exactly. And we both met up there we'd arranged to meet at the Irish Championships just to become acquainted, because Pauli had a scheme in his head.
Okay, what was the scheme? Tell us.
So I was just starting racing, and I had my license for about a year.
Your first license?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Pauli at that stage, I don't think he'd done an Olympics. That was in 1999, 2000. So he was like myself. You know, he was breaking down the barriers and looking to go forward in skiing. You know, he grew up in a place where, again, his playground was St. Anton,
okay,
and it's very serious skiing there.
Okay.
So he rang me before the Irish Championships and said, "Oh, hello, how are you? My name's Pauli. How are you getting on? I see that you do a little bit of downhill ski racing." I was like, "Yeah, a little bit, you know." I mean, I did the first ever FIS race I did was in British Championships in Teen, and it was a downhill. And downhill is essentially you're following the line of the slope, and there are gates, but the speeds are much higher.
Yeah.
So you'd be racing down at 50, 60, 70, even, you know, up to 90 miles per hour. Yeah.
Jesus.
And so Pauli said, "There's this race in America called the 24 Hours of Aspen. Would you be up for coming with me?" So I said, "Yeah, that sounds cool."
So you went up to Aspen?
Yeah, Pauli had it all arranged, and in fact, there were 12 teams, and it was a 24-hour event. So it was like it's a special event. This is outside of World Cup or FIS. It was sponsored by Audi, and it was for charity race. So there were various different benefactors, and the money was shared, for these different groups. The concept was that you took 12 teams, and the teams had a pair, and you raced for 24 hours down Ajax Mountain, and that's about a 17-minute gondola ride. And for most people, that would probably be about a half an hour ski, you know, with a couple of stops along the way, and admire the scenery, a couple of photographs and that. But we were doing it about 2.5 minutes, or to 2 minutes and 50, I think would be about the slowest time. But the track was getting faster and faster as we went along. So
because it ices up, does it ice up?
Yeah, in this particular instance, it was very icy, because there were 12 teams skiing around, and I think we did 72 laps on the gondola. And like I said, Pauli didn't know me, and he didn't know my ability or anything, and he had a guy who was going to race with him who wasn't Irish, but one of the criteria was that you could still race under the Irish flag even if it was just one person from that nation. So He had a friend who was going to join him, but he was injured, and so I was drafted in. And I think Pauli got a bit of a shock the first day when he saw me going up on skis in Aspen. There was a problem with my brake, a technical problem, so it slowed me down significantly. And there was a question as to whether this guy was actually good enough to do the race. But it was equipment, it wasn't me, you know. I mean, I had no problem. So once I got that resolved, we were off. And we did very well, like, you know. We were considered the exotic nation. It's quite funny to be considered exotic when you're coming from Ireland.
Was that sort of like similar to the bobsleigh team from Jamaica? Or actually, Ireland had a bobsleigh team, didn't they, as well? But anyway.
Yeah, Ireland have had a bobsleigh team and they've had a skeleton team. And Clifton Rottersley, he placed fourth in the Salt Lake Olympics, where Pauli also competed. So Pauli was the first man that I know to compete in the Winter Olympics. There was maybe others in the past, but like that, for me, it's all about what's happening in the present moment, and I don't look back at the history so much. Really, I'm inspired by people who are living more so than history of things in the past, because I suppose in order to bring about change and break down the barriers, like you said, a Kenmare man skiing at the Olympics, it was an unusual journey, and that was one of the key points there when I started with the 24 Hours of Aspen in 2000.
So that kind of set you off. When did the Olympics come into your view? What you wanted to do? Did you say, geez, I'm going to go for the Olympics here?
Yeah, well, I guess so. I didn't come from a racing background, but I really loved free skiing.
Does that matter, Thos? Sorry, does that matter? Like, is there, is there some sort of pedigree for this? I mean, we know that the Swiss are great, whatever, Austrians.
I think.
Does it help that you come from a lineage of skiers, or?
I think ultimately it does matter.
Okay.
There's a certain confidence that you can draw on from a lifetime of experience in racing. But if you have the feeling and you have courage, you can make up a lot for maybe a lack of base level training. Or you can also dedicate yourself and work really hard and get the base level training at a later stage, which is what I did.
So did you make up for the fact that you didn't have the support maybe that you needed? Did you say, oh yeah, I'm not getting what everybody else is getting, I'm going to have to work harder here? Like,
I guess so, but I never looked at it from the point of view, I'm not getting what everybody else isn't
but
getting.
I don't mean that in a sense of entitlement. Sort of like, if it's not there, it's not there. Like,
yeah.
Or were you supported in any way? Like,
I was supported for sure, yeah. I mean, there were times when, first of all, my parents supported me greatly.
Of course, yeah,
I remember writing to my mum and dad. My idea was, after the leaving cert, I said, I want to go skiing, take a year out. I'm really not interested in going to college just yet, to do business studies or accounting or something like that in I think it was in Galway. And I didn't see myself as an accountant. So they said, look, maybe don't take the year out, but maybe you could do something for the summer. Or, they had friends of ours who were going on a summer camp. It was like a 1 month skiing trip, and that was in New Zealand. So I was really, really blessed that my parents were willing to spend money to try and keep me on the right path, so that come September or October I'd go into college and that'd be the end of that. So it wasn't the end of that, it was just the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's where I met my friend Angus in New Zealand on that trip. And I committed to the skiing from that point on. And my mum and dad supported me initially in the earlier years. And then I started, as I progressed through the ranks, there was assistance there from the Sports Council and the Ski Association of Ireland. For sure it wasn't substantial, but I appreciated it.
Of course, yeah.
I also got a little donation from my past school as well. That was really, really well appreciated. So, I used to work, I'd work and save up the money, and I suppose there were times when I felt like this is mad, like I'm putting all this energy and effort to represent Ireland, and I'm not necessarily getting the funding, and I'm still trying to struggle with that. But I think that was just me sort of listening to other people who were saying, you should be getting funded, you should be this. I didn't really. I was doing my thing. I chose to be a skier. I chose to do that. There is no pathway for funding or anything like that. So, look, whatever I got, I was really grateful for it, and it allowed me to continue doing what I love. So, happy days.
And you made it happen, like you know, like, so the preparation for the Olympics must have been something else. I mean, that's a commitment where you know it's going to be a commitment. You're sort of going into battle here for 4 years. Before the Olympics, obviously, I don't know how long the preparation would last, but you're at a disadvantage because you didn't come from the ski slopes of Switzerland for number one, and you didn't have, our mountains aren't covered with snow every morning, number two, and so you're going to have to get yourself there. You're going to have to train. I mean, did you go to Switzerland? Did you train? What happened?
So I guess just really briefly to kind of recap on how the season goes, start from about the age of 18, 1998, when I finished school, I started doing ski seasons, and a lot of people will be familiar with that. You go out for the winter, maybe around Christmas time, December, and you ski till April, get a season pass. And in the middle of that, I would have been going to races, and I would have been working a little bit and travelling about and developing. And the further I got into it, the longer the season became. So instead of just starting in December, I would go to Austria in October and ski on the glacier for a couple of months. And you'd have I was working with a coach there in Austria, in Pitztal. He was living near Innsbruck. He was a really lovely man. I would stay in his house there with my friend Angus, and gradually you just develop you kind of shape a little bit like the footballers. You look at the season, you're like, okay, when do you want to peak? You do your base training and you do all your fitness training earlier on in the year. So we'd be in the gym 4 or 5 days a week at least, and then you'd be ready for kind of December time. You'd be starting to get into it, and then the bulk of the races are happening between December and March, and you need to be on form for it. And that year that we were going for the Olympics, I mean, I had ideas and notions of going to the Olympics in 2002, but obviously Pauli was a much better skier than I was. So I knew that it was possible. I knew what the criteria were, and I knew that I could get there. And I just set about, each and every race, just like we said at the earlier part of the conversation, just, a new challenge, a new day, go out, break the boundaries. And then at first it was a bit funny, you're from Ireland, right, yeah. And then, it wasn't so funny after a while when, you start moving up the ranks. And I did progress up the ranks, not to a very high level, but to a good level.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the top 30%. You came 32nd. I mean, that's a massive, massive achievement. Like, I mean, the best in the world. I mean, when I was watching this Olympic thing last night, 2006 Olympics, for me anyway, I just thought it must be an amazing thing to put on the Irish colours and stand for your country. And I mean, what thoughts would run through, what emotions would run through your head? I mean, it must stick in your memory, like.
Yeah, the opening ceremony, I think, was the thing that really stands out for me. Just being in 2006, we were in Turin, so the set, I think it was Juventus have a stadium there, I think. Ian, you would know that. So we were in this stadium, and next to it there was a little holding area. So we're watching on the big screen all the athletes as they go out into the stadium. It's a big televised event. Everyone watches it. It's very spectacular. All the entertainment and the show, and
Pavarotti sang, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we were right up there. So you're in the holding area, and you're watching on telly, and suddenly your nation is called. Like, so you're watching for half an hour while America and all the countries, and they go out, and like, you're watching America for like 10 minutes, and then you see like Azerbaijan, and there's one or two guys, and you know what I mean? It's like all the nations are there,
Yeah.
And some teams are vast and more are tiny. And there was a small delegation of us. There was about 6 or 8 of us all together. And it was Kirsty McGarry who was the flag bearer. She was racing in Turin as well, and a very close friend of mine and the family. They were really instrumental in bringing me into the sport on a more serious level. So just arriving into the Olympic Stadium, and I had my best friend and racing buddy Angus as my coach. They didn't actually have a coach at the Olympics. It was my racing pal.
Wow.
And he was looking after me, and we were blown away. Just you come into the stadium, and it was vast, and it was very exciting. And watching Pavarotti singing was definitely, I think it was one of his last performances. So that was pretty special too, and I have really, really great memories of the excitement and exuberation of meeting all the different athletes. There was a little thing that you exchange little badges. So I've got all these little badges everywhere. It's really, really cool,
Cool, yeah. Like, when I was reading a bit of your story, and I just had pictures of you going over in an old Volkswagen Beetle camper van, and next thing you got Bodie Miller pulling up in the Bodemobile, or whatever you call it, But it must have been a bit intimidating. I mean, or was it, or had you gone past that stage? Like,
well, Bodie's a really cool guy. I don't know him very well, but Darren Rouse and a lot of the athletes. Well, I think when you reach a level in sport where you're achieving greatness, like Bodie Miller and Herman Meyer, and say Alberto Tomba, I suppose there's many more. Luc Alphon is another one as well. He's done the Paris Dakar. Luc Alphon, he used to race as a skier as well. They don't really. There's no barriers. There's no boundaries. They'll take you as you are. Whether you're, a shit kicker from Kerry, or Benny Reich from Austria, who's had everything laid out for him, and this is his destiny to be the best racer.
Yeah.
And there's a great camaraderie when you go and you're surrounded by great athletes and you're in that zone. There's a kind of an intense feeling. It's different from a lot of other sports where you have 2 teams who line up and they're opposing, and you have the guy who's next to you. So I would have played a lot of team sports. There's a team atmosphere, but it's an individual competition. So I think,
does that help?
It does help, because there's certainly a lot more failures than there are successes with ski racing. Yeah, there's a lot of things can go wrong. There's a lot of variables, and that's what makes it really challenging. Every track, like we talked about earlier, the track can get really rutted. It could be a bit foggy. You might have a little bit of an equipment issue with your gear. And so you're relying on your training partners who you train with, but ultimately you're competing against them as well. So I suppose for me, it was often about the exhilaration again, and I do believe that that's partly what drove me, was perhaps an addiction to the exhilaration.
Yeah. When I was researching this, and after listening, what comes up in my mind is, I remember Ayrton Senna was doing a lap of Monte Carlo, right? And I'd be sort of into the psychology of things a bit, and he reckons that he wasn't really driving the car around the best lap he did. Like, he was so at one with what he was doing that his thought process stopped, Like, I was kind of thought, is that what it is with people that go for stuff like this? I mean, this takes a massive commitment. Is it for the search of the buzz of, like, going down a hill and doing it so much and being at one with things so much that you just love being in that zone? Like, do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do. So I've been chatting with a friend of mine about this recently, and it's difficult to come to terms with that. And we're getting into the meaty part of the conversation now, We've talked about the accolades in the past and whatever, but
which are important,
and I suppose the my reality is that, we have lots of things happen in our life. There's business, there's family. I have a beautiful family. I have 2 kids, and with Sophie, a beautiful woman. And at the same time, there's a sense of pressure and obligation around you, and whether it's expectation at a certain point in sport, like that, oh, you're in the Olympics now, you need to do this and you need to do that, and oh, sure, you're doing this, and all these other factors that are happening around you. And with the sport, and when you really push your body to the limit, there was no 2 minutes ago, and there's no future. It's just that precise moment in time where everything that you're doing has a direct impact on, your where you are. So if you're hurtling down the hill, you can't be thinking about your bank account, or how you're going to pay for this, that, or the other, and what your relationship is like at the moment, because I suppose there is a sort of selfishness to a pursuit. I think anybody who progresses in sport is really single-minded, and you have to be, I guess, and that's something that we're brought up with. It's all about winning, and you got to push. But I suppose in that journey, I realised actually that perhaps the addiction to the moment was where it was at. To be in that state of mind where you're totally present, where, like you said about Ayrton Senna, you're not consciously thinking, oh, I must do this and must do that. No, you don't. You feel your way. You're in the zone, and that is it. People say you're in the zone, and what it means by in the zone, you're in the moment, and your body is prepared, your mind is prepared, and you're expressing yourself in the moment.
So like just picture you standing out ready to go for on the slopes, ready to take your race for the Olympics, right? And what's going through your mind, like? What you're prepared, like you're really prepared for this. Everything checked, your gear checked. I don't know what it's like there. Is it iced up a bit if you got things going through your mind?
Yeah, it was really, really intense. So first off, there are 2 runs to do, and I don't remember so much the first run, more the second one. At the start gate, I would have been in the top 40, so I was watching the reverse top 30. So the reverse top 30, in order to build the excitement of the race, effectively the leaders of the race were just going a few racers ahead of me. And I'd never experienced that, to be in a major event where Herman Meyer is warming up like 2 or 3
The Herminator.
The Herminator, yeah, an amazing guy.
God,
and Benny Reich and Bodie Miller and all, it was just, amazing. And the Italian guys were there too. And you're standing up, I would say, it was one of the longest races in the history of alpine skiing in terms of giant slalom. It was about a 2.5 minute course, and so the distances apart were massive. It was very unusual. I watched one of the best skiers in the world go down from Norway in the earlier part, because there's quite a lot of racers, and I thought he looked like Bambi on ice, and I said, "Whoa, no, man! If he looks that rugged, I mean, how am I going to get down here? How am I going to manage?" It was like the piece had been prepared with injected water and fertilizer. They use fertilizer, and it's all artificial snow.
Really?
Yeah, it's super compacted. A race piece, in order to keep it firm, and it's because it's raced on all season long.
Yeah. Have you ever met slopes like this before?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I have done, but not like this. They wanted it to be the best, and it was super complex. It was super long. It was really, really icy, and it was very, very challenging.
Jeez.
So I was at the start watching these guys kick out the gate, knowing that, okay, it'll be my turn soon. And, you know, you're thinking about the journey, everything that it's taking you to get here, you know, thinking about your equipment, and, you know, my family were there, Sophie was there, my mom and dad were there. We managed to get tickets. That's a whole other story. you know,
the ticket story.
We managed to get tickets, but anyway, look, I'm not even going to go there.
You must have been able for that, coming from a GA country. I mean,
look, I'm not even going to go there. It was a whole other story. I was delighted that my family were able to be there to watch me take stage, and I
feels proud of you, like
yeah. And I knew at that point when I was at the start that it didn't matter if Thos Foley skied down and put down the best ever run, you know, and I risked, you know, crashing out. There were so many, the course was so tough and it was so icy. I just said, right, get down. Just get down. That's enough. Like, don't be the hero. You know, accept what you have here today, and, you know, give it your best. Like, you know, you're talking about a really long run, and get down. And, you know.
Were you going to win, though, in the back of your head?
No,
Will you be a Roy Keane type?
No. I suppose, like, my definition of winning is different from other people's definition of winning. You don't set out to be a ski racer from Kerry and expect that you're going to win the Olympics. It was a personal journey, and it was about breaking boundaries. If I wanted to be a winner, I would have stayed playing rugby or playing football.
That's a good point.
You know,
yeah.
I was coached by some great coaches. I was coached by Mickey and Ed in minors, and, you know, I wasn't Kerry material, but I mean, I suppose I was a late developer in sport. I was really interested in sport. And I played rugby at school as well on the senior cup team in Castleknock, coached by Mick Quinn. So I was year-round training. So all those things that I'd done over the years, whether it's jumping off walls or, you know,
coming into
suicide, or, you know, like endless training sessions with Mickey and Ed, or cross-training out in the rowing, and, you know, cycling, doing triathlon, all these different things, and kung fu, all those things combined together just to prepare me for that moment. And the Olympics is the one that people want to know about. They don't want to know about everything else. It is a brand, but it's the spirit of the Olympics. That's what people want. And I think the spirit of the Olympics is about creating those unusual situations where, you know, just by pure determination and stubbornness, and I would say a great degree of selfishness, that you pursue a path that everyone's saying, that's just ridiculous. What are you doing that for? I've had people say that to me. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's that skiing business?
What are you doing going skiing? Would you ever play football? Like,
sure, that's fucking nonsense. You go away on all of that.
Yeah. So get a grip of yourself.
No, so look, you know, I you know, there's the doubters, and
so the doubters were put to bed that day when you're facing the slope, like, as you said.
Look, it's like you're in the zone, you're in the moment, and once you kick out the gate, poof, there's a huge surge of adrenaline, and then you're in it. And every second,
and you're off.
You're not. There's such a level of focus. It's so precise, and it's so. There is nothing else.
That's a massive thing to say. Like, there's nothing else. Like,
yeah, and that's difficult to stop. You know, so
there's nearly a lot could be said about what you just said there, but it's hard to put words on it. Like,
look, we can put words on it if you like. I think the idea of our conversation today is to get the story untold. Really, John, would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, but still, you're coming down that slope, and you're nearly at one with everything again, right? And when did finish the end of the race was? No, finish the end of your run.
So there's about, I suppose, 50, 60, 70 gates. It just seemed like an endless forest of gates. And there was a lot of cambers, that's side cambers. very difficult to get grip. So, you know, by the time you're halfway down, you're coming to a ridgeline, and you must remember exactly the course. So you've done an inspection that's before the race, and you know exactly the angle that you have to take. And trying to remember, it'd be like trying to remember the bends in a race course, but I guess it's slightly different because the track will be different after each skier, or, you know, it could be more icy after 50 or 60 guys go down. And so you're just constantly battling your way to stay in good position. You've got to use all your resources and your strength and keep focused. And
you have to improvise on the way down, sort of, because you don't know what you meet. Like, because it's not like you ski down, that's it, lads. Do you know?
You're constantly fighting to stay in balance. That's effectively skiing is about balance. And, you know, you do everything, you train, everything you do is about training for balance. And so being in the front of your skis and driving the skis, they're super, super sharp. Like, it's like a samurai sword, the edges of your skis, in order to hold the grip on the ice. And by the time I got down, well, it was just a huge release, really, just to get over the finish line. Thos Foley, Ireland, you know, and just to see the flags waving up in the stadium, and to be still part of it. I mean, it was a huge buzz. I mean, there's no question about it. It was a massive feeling of exhilaration, and I think there was a sense of achievement there at that point when I said, nobody can ever take this away from me. You know, and that's the beauty about Olympics too, because it's a defining thing where, you know, you understand yourself that you have achieved something great.
And like, afterwards, was there a downer afterwards? Forgive the pun.
Well, in 2006, there was really a downer. I mean, I was obviously finished out the season. Sophie went back to Ireland, and my family went back. I had my son was 2 at the time. And now I had to sort of figure out, right, okay, pick up the pieces. I need to pay my coach. I need to,
credit card bills,
you know, finish off this, that, and the other. And I ended up, you know, there was fierce excitement at home in Kenmare, and for me, I didn't know how to deal with that. It's like, well, I didn't set out to be the centre of attention, and there was fierce excitement at home. And I remember a businessman at the time, he's like, oh, you must come home to Ireland, we'll do something for you in Kerry. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't feel kind of worthy of any kind of celebration. I didn't feel like there was anything special. You know, I didn't, for me, it felt wrong that we should be glorifying it, you know. I think that we're all special and we all have great things. I think there's a societal thing that kind of likes a bit of hero worshipping, and I didn't feel like any hero or anything like that. Especially because, you know, it comes at a personal cost as well. Like, you know, I mentioned my son and Sophie, they were living in Ireland, and I was pursuing my dream, you know. So yeah, I remember wondering how I'm going to pay for all this. I think I owed my coach around $6,000. And my friend Angus and we worked in Geneva that summer following the season. So I ended up recuperating a nice bit of cash there. I was cleaning boats, power washing, servicing, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. They were restored for the winter, and we were putting them out on the water. And you know, I'm not skilled at it or anything, but I was just... It's good wage in Switzerland, so it was enough to pay back that. And, well, I suppose you're going to say, well, what's next?
Yeah, I mean...
you know what I mean? What's next, you know?
What's after the Olympics? I mean, really, I couldn't imagine, like you don't really want to do it again, because, like, it's like a drug, as you said. It's like it's an addiction in a way, maybe, not in the conventional sense. But.
And that's exactly what happened, John. You said you'd nearly want to do it again. Well, I did want to do it again, and so I tried to take a break for a while from skiing. I wanted to change my life in a way that was conducive to family living, to be in Ireland, perhaps work a bit, get a job, settle down, all that stuff.
Life.
Yeah, everything seemed to be in slow motion, and I couldn't quite cope with the everything being so pedestrian. I'm used to skiing at like ridiculous paces where you're having to make decisions.
Being in the zone.
Every couple of seconds. I'm not talking about a decision that, what will I have for breakfast? Will I do this? Will I do that? Will I do tomorrow? Will I do that? I'm talking about, constant.
How am I going to get out of this icy patch quick?
It's
like
just non-stop.
Yeah.
And that, not understanding that you can achieve that in life as well, in normal sense of life, that, being present in life can bring fierce excitement. But at that time in 2007, I was very much like, I need this external thing in order that I can have that feeling. And so I said to Sophie, let's go to France, let's go back, I'll get back and, pursue my instructing. So I picked up the instructing a little bit later on, and I started doing the exams for that. And then this thing called ski cross emerged. And that's a whole other story.
So, yeah, but you left the to do the Olympics again, to follow your dream again, to get another run at it. You left that idea go? Not too easily.
No, I didn't, because in 2007 I did one World Championships, and that was about it. I took a break. Then the following year I started picking it up again, and we're talking 2008 here. And again, my friend Angus, who I lived with for many, many years, a Scottish guy, he said, I'm knocking the alpine racing on the head and I'm doing skier cross now. I was like, that's good for you, man. Yeah, well, good luck with that. And so he was telling me, racing, this, I think you'd be really good at this. It would really suit you. And it really was something that I was drawn to. So this is where you race 4 at a time. And it's, I suppose the easiest way to describe it is like motocross on skis. So you've got 4 guys at the start.
Yeah.
And there's a series of jumps and obstacles and berms, and you compete 4 at a time. And, well, that was taking the downhill, which is super exhilarating, onto a whole other level where you're competing.
You're literally falling off a slope, like.
Some of the courses were pretty hardcore, yeah. Like, it's not.
Could imagine. I'd need a parachute or something.
Yeah, there's even if you talk about it in terms of alpine racing.
Jesus.
So all these guys who
zone stuff. No,
yeah, all these guys who grew up, and you asked me a very good question earlier. You said, how did it matter that you didn't have the background in alpine racing? So the skiing, the training, and all the races from a young age. I didn't start till I was 18, really properly. Well, in this instance, it was different because it was about balance and jumps and coordination, and I had all that from other sports and from.
Okay.
And so it was basically, there were a lot of racers who wouldn't even dream about going into a ski cross race. They're like, "Are you crazy?
Yeah.
With 3 other guys racing alongside you, what if they crash into you? What if you crash into them?" And so basically the level of danger was exponentially higher in ski cross racing, and I raced at World Cup in ski cross, whereas in the alpine, albeit that I had a great achievement in the Olympics, that wasn't a true representation of my actual level in terms of where I was internationally, because they only had the best athletes, the 4 best athletes from each country.
Yeah.
It meant that instead of like 20 Swiss guys ahead of me, there was only 4.
4, yeah.
And the same with the US. So, it's 31st is a great placing, but it doesn't represent my global ranking. However, in skier cross, I did achieve a really high global ranking. I think that I was in the top 60, 51 perhaps.
Wow.
So
out of a lot more competitors, like.
Look, it was a more niche sport, but we're talking about a global event, that it was an Olympic sport, and I was driven to go for the second Olympics, to answer your question there earlier.
Yeah.
And
because the Olympics, as you said, it holds a special something. Obviously,
it's magic.
Magic.
It's magic.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is electric. Meeting other athletes, just the exuberance, the energy, the sense of like being all these combined stories meeting together and infusing from internationally, and breaking down barriers, racial barriers or demographic barriers. There's guys I know that did, I think Lamine Gueye from Senegal, I think he did the most amount of Olympics of anyone, and he's a Senegalese man from Paris, and he would have been one of the only black skiers back in the 80s, and I think he's done a whole lot of Olympics, and he's also a really exciting guy just to be around in general. I think he's got the world record for some for spearfishing. He's barramundi and things like this. So a lot of the guys that you meet in skiing, they're not your conventional type of people. They're truth seekers, they're explorers, adventure searchers. Yeah,
you're searching for something, Thos.
I guess I was searching for an answer.
To what? Did you know what the question was?
I don't think I really knew what the question was, really. For me, it was about, like I say, at a young age, want to be a rally driver. I want the exhilaration. And I think that that's something that we don't experience in our everyday life. We settle for normal. We settle for mediocre. We settle for, sure, look, it's okay. I don't need to go for that run today. I don't need to feel alive today. I can feel alive tomorrow. Yeah. Or I can feel alive when we go to holidays, and maybe I can do something that's fun. But, we can feel alive every day. And that was perhaps what I was searching for. So the direction went towards the next Olympics, and ski cross was being introduced, not just it was a new sport that was being added to the 2010 Olympics. New target, new goal. So I did 2 years racing World Cup in ski cross, and that was a global adventure, whereas the alpine skiing was more European based. That was a whole other level of exhilaration, really.
Yeah. So the ski cross was added to the Olympics in
2010.
2010. Did you think I'd go for the Olympics in ski cross?
Yeah, I was definitely close. In Japan, I suppose that was my chance to qualify. There was a World Championships in Japan in 2009, and it was a case of, will I go, won't I go? Sophie was pregnant with our second child, and I don't know how she's put up with me for this long. And she's finally getting a chance to come down off the whole insanity of my life story, and getting a bit of a break.
Great support there.
Yeah, has given me so much in order to facilitate my I would say my dream, my vision, but ultimately I would say my addiction. All right, because I think that's really what it is. Yeah.
It's got to be, hasn't it? You've got to be driven.
Yeah, I think the ski cross really was dangerous. Angus. So when I was racing in Japan, I was really focused on getting into the Olympics, and I was looking for a top 35 finish in the World Cup that would have secured me a place. And I was around the 40, 45, and I thought, if one good run, and I could do it. In a training run before the actual event, I had probably one of the most spectacular crashes of my skiing career, and I've had a lot. I broke both my thumbs, and I injured my knee.
Jesus.
In a kind of imagine if you were on a motocross bike and you you were heading for the ramp, and it was a very high-speed course, and you went off to the side of the ramp, and you missed the landing of the ramp. Okay, because it's on a flat. This particular jump, so you need to jump up, and then it's flat. There's a tabletop, it's called, and then you have to arrive on the other side
of the drop.
Yeah, and you got to get it right so that you land. You don't want to jump too far,
or you miss the drop,
or you don't want to jump too short because you'll hit the top. And you bounce off the top.
You have to get it right.
You got to get it right. Yeah. Well, in this instance, I was overtaking my friend who I was racing alongside, and I got the line wrong, and I overshot the landing, and it was catastrophic. And that was the end of that.
Jeez.
So I broke both my thumbs, and I ended up I think I took some painkillers, and I went and I did the time trial to qualify for the.
What? Whoa! Whoa! Steady up.
Yeah. I didn't go all the way to Japan to go home without giving it a good shot.
This is the drive,
So I had two broken thumbs, and my knee was kind of, I tore the patella ligament a bit, and yeah, not too badly.
Mm-hmm.
So
I couldn't imagine skiing when injured,
Yeah, it was a real shame because I was in an exceptional form, and I had a breakthrough while I was in Japan. One of the coaches from the US team had this amazing technology.
I was actually thinking about technology and skiing. Yeah,
something that we never had.
Yeah.
But the technology was emerging that you could superimpose the skiers on top of each other. So you could have the video camera on the slope, and you could take 5 video runs, and you could watch yourself 5 times, and you could see where you were losing time. Or you could put yourself against another athlete and watch where he was gaining time. So you're watching the gate, and you're thinking, he's going 2 meters wider there, and he's accelerating at the end of the turn.
So it's a bit like this is the coach you never had.
Yeah, so I got a little glimpse of what some of the other guys had. I think, the Canadians were destroying everybody because it was their Olympics, remember? So they were pumping a lot of money into this. And the Canadians are leaders in the world in terms of sports anyway. They come up with a lot of the best strategy and psychology. You mentioned psychology. And they really drive it forward. So having a glimpse at this new analysis and saying, wow, I see that movement, that really makes sense. And with ski cross, there's huge jumps everywhere, but you don't want to be spending all your time jumping and in the air. You want to be keeping the skis in contact with the snow as much as possible so that you can accelerate as much as possible and basically beat the 3 other guys alongside you.
Can you go faster on the snow than you can in the air?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're airborne, and you're kind of overshooting the landing, what you really want is you want to spend as much time on the snow as possible, to get the most amount of acceleration. So if you land at the bottom of the flat, like I said,
because you decrease it.
There's no acceleration. You want to land on the ramp and then accelerate down the ramp.
Yeah.
And for me, I was really in great form, and
you were injured, and you're skiing again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever really had much of a chance after that crash. I was just up at the start, and the impacts were pretty hefty as well on the jump. So, it was disappointing, I guess, at that point to say, right, well, look, that's that out the window, and but at the same time, I was injured, and it was like, right, that's over now. My season had to stop there. The following year I went back, and I didn't feel it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't feel it. Well, Louis was born, my second child, and he was born while I was on the way back from Japan, on the plane.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
did that kind of tell you something?
Yeah, look, I suppose Liam's birth was traumatic.
Okay.
Liam's now 16, and he was in intensive care in Tralee, and there was a certain kind of escapism attached with this, addiction to the nowness of skiing.
Yeah.
And
like.
so like I think it's a sense that people have in business as well. You know, they become driven, like, and
it's exciting. I mean, it's your life, as you say, you know.
But at a certain point, like, you got to say, what is this about? Like, what am I doing this for? My son Sophie is in hospital now with, you know, our second child, and so I arrived back into Cork with 2 broken thumbs and both my hands in a cast, and I wasn't going to be changing too many nappies. So at that point, I was like, look, man, that's enough. So that was my last real serious race in 2009 in Japan, and I've dedicated, you know, myself a lot more to my family, albeit like struggling a lot with kind of the aftermath of being, you know, an Olympian and a full-time professional athlete from, I would say, from about the age of 16.
Yeah.
You know, I was always interested in sports, so 16 to 32 or whatever, and you know, 30.
Do you miss it, Thos? Like, you must do.
Well,
I don't want to push it, but like, I just think, do you feel that with something else now? I mean, with the coaching, do you get as much satisfaction out of it now, coaching young fellas? And which you must do. Like,
I do. I get a huge amount of satisfaction from coaching. So I went and finished the exams, and you know, there was no real racing after that, but I would go for seasons where I would work and instruct, and look, it was very well paid. And you know, we've had several recessions in Ireland, you know, around you know,
those, yeah.
So it was all coinciding, you know, the buzz that we were on in Ireland was also coming to an end, and my buzz was coming to an end, and it was time to pay back, and there was plenty of paying back, you know.
Yeah. The pain was back and paying back, and
look, and
so you're it's like you came out of this massive cloud, this world, you know. I couldn't imagine what it's like, but I'd love to be there myself. Anybody would dream of that, like, but
it is.
And you came to reality, as you call it, like civilian life, nearly, you know.
Yeah, well, I suppose the reality is what we choose it to be. So I chose, for as long as I could get away with it, I chose a different reality. And being back in Ireland and facing the reality of my situation, that I was involved in business, and that I'd taken personal choices that had got me into a situation where I was avoiding taking the personal responsibility, and I was using skiing as a way of avoiding, you know, facing my personal reality. And I think that since then, through teaching and through meeting other instructors who I worked with, there was one particular guy who's from France. He said, when I was teaching the kids, he said, "Listen, man. So I'm instructing a group of children from Saint-Ouen, which is one of the worst, poorest areas in France." And those children would have been around 11, 12, similar age to Louis is now. And they would have been brought from the ghettos of, you know, around Paris, and they would have been brought up to the mountains, and it was a really amazing thing. You know, so it's one thing to teach holiday makers who have a lot of privilege, and, you know,
it's a bit like a kid that hasn't seen the sea, you know.
Yeah, and these kids, they'd never been in the mountains. And I felt that was really, really special. You know, it's vacances, loisirs, young children who'd never seen the mountains. You know, they may be Polish or Colombian or you know, French, Nigerian, or from Ghana, and, you know, but all these lovely kids, and they're just full of energy. And my idea was initially, oh yeah, and I got to teach these kids how to ski. You know, I got to show them how to ski and be really good skiers.
Become the best skier, maybe.
Yeah, let's get them to be the best skiers. And then my friend David Ortigoza, he said, "Listen, these kids, man, I want you to know."
I know it's natural that you want them to be the best.
I want you to know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So we watched the movie La Haine, which is
La Haine.
La Haine. It's a great French film.
Okay.
and Vincent Cassel plays the part in that movie, and it's set around the ghettos in Paris, and it shows that these children, their reality is completely different from my reality, a reality of privilege and of opportunity, where, you know, my parents were willing to support my adventure and my dream. These kids are coming from a place where there was no dream, I don't think.
No parents, maybe.
Yeah, and in some cases, horrific stories. The day that RT told me this, there was one of my young skiers who was injured, and I've had a very good track record of not having too many injuries, but this was one in particular. He was on the last run, and I was maybe pushing it a little bit, and I would say that I put I wanted them to challenge them on the slope rather than just saying, look man, let them have a bit of fun. And that was a turning point for me, understanding that it wasn't about achieving the goal of being better. It was about, you know, being relaxed and saying, we can go down the easy route, we can sing a song, we can jump, we can make animal noises, we can overtake, we can ski comfortably on a green slope rather than pushing it on a blue run, because, we want to achieve the blue run. So the young lad was injured, and the animator, the man who was responsible for the group, said to me afterwards, Jesus, that kid's got no luck. And I said, oh, what's that? And he said, well, his dad's in prison. You know what I mean? And you could just see the demeanour. I'm talking about a 10-year-old kid, and he just didn't have any spark in him. And so I realised that, it wasn't okay to be, I had to look at these kids individually and understand that their experience in the mountains was magical, and that I had the opportunity to create that magic for them. And RT said, yeah, watch this movie and let's have a chat and understand that where these guys are coming from. They don't care. They might never come skiing again. Give them a chance to see that just for one moment that there's a better life out there, that they can be present, and they can have a memory or understanding, perhaps, that by changing your surroundings, you can indeed change how you experience life. And for me, the greatest gift I have from all of the skiing, it's not the memories of the Olympics or anything like that. It's just I really, really enjoy instructing those particular kids, purely because there's such a sense of gratitude and appreciation when you show that this environment is a place for expression, personal expression, and that it's required that you take personal responsibility and that you respect the other people around you. It is the last space of freedom, like skiing in the mountains. In Europe, there is no speed limits. In America, they're strict on that. But if you want to ski in Europe, you get a lift ticket, pair of skis, and you could put yourself on the top of Craran Tool. I've seen people die. I've seen, people fall to their death or whatever. So you have to be careful and you have to be responsible, and that's something that we're constantly avoiding. So maybe that's what skiing has taught me to this point, is that, to be truly present in the moment. It's not necessarily about being addicted to exhilaration or whatever. It's about creating magic in the moment with the people around you.
Yeah, you're in the magic of the skiing environment, and it's all magic. It's about that magic still, isn't it?
Well, I think we can create the magic no matter where we are.
Yeah.
If we
there's someone now somewhere, some young fella thinking, Jesus, could I like skiing. Do you think, could I ever do that? Do you know?
Well, I guess whether it's skiing or whether it's cycling or whether it's rowing or whether it's football, I don't think it really matters.
Just go for it.
Or whether it's, finally getting around to doing your podcasts.
Yeah.
You're creating magic in your life, and that's...
It's all about creation.
It's not something external anymore. It's something that you're doing in the present moment where you are, and that's being able to bring all that experience from skiing and bring it into my life in a way that's present and focused. There's a lot been happening in the recent time for me, but again, let's not go into that.
Yeah, you remind me of when I was watching Olympics now again. It's going back to that again, where the winners, I think they got $25,000 or something, and they gave it away to some charity to help kids, and it kind of snowballed into there. So even when they won the Olympics, they were still thinking, do you know what? What is this? I'm going to give it away. You know, there's some sort of realization that comes to everybody, maybe.
I think it's really important that, people listening would understand that there's a whole... Why is the Olympics such a special thing? There's two reasons. First of all, you have the Olympic spirit, and you have people who are creating magic all around them. And then you have the other element of the Olympics, which is the corporate element.
Because it's a brand, as you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while we sense the magic, we associate it with, achievement and, if I do this, I'll be that. If I associate with that product, I'll be, I'll have what they have. But really, it's about understanding that when those guys are like
understanding the magic.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be externalized. It's something that, everybody can have if you just accept that, we're personally responsible for our own existence, where losing means checking out for good.
Yeah.
We can do what we want, really, and if we believe in it. And you can wake up in the morning and you can put your best foot forward and you can say, right, I'm going to be positive and optimistic today, and I'm going to see what life brings, and I'll roll with the punches, and if I have a failure, that's okay. I'll hold my head up high and I'll keep going. And like I said, the accumulation of failures or perceived failures shows you that that's just part of it. And our society, the corporate side of that society, would like to tell you that there are no failures. When the opposite is true. I think really it's an accumulation of failures that bring something special about in your life. And I think so many young people are afraid to go out and embarrass themselves or to seem like a failure because they tried that, and sure, So that answers that question, I think.
Yeah, it's some sort of even when I was doing the podcast, I was kind of when I started out doing it, there's this thing they call the imposter syndrome, and it raises its ugly head. I don't listen to that negative shite too much, right? But you must have felt that yourself, even with the skiing. But what I'm saying is, when you started off, maybe, what advice would you, because that's a big thing to overcome for anyone, Jesus, who do you think you are to be great, wonderful and fantastic, trying whatever you're going to try, because we all grow up with certain conditioning patterns, especially that kid that has no father, and he's looking at the slopes going, geez, I was told I was useless and no good for nothing, and sure, Jesus Christ, I can't even stand up on the ski, And
there he is with his bust up knee. That is what's happening, and we believe it. We believe that we're limited. We believe that we should stay in our box. We believe that we can be happy tomorrow and we can be alive tomorrow. But maybe you can be alive today and you can go for a walk and you can look at the splendour of your surrounding. I mean, I love Killarney. I'm here in one of the places that I love. I mean, we come over from Kenmare all the time and walk around the national park, and every time I'm blown away. And I think that's important. Spend a lot of time in nature, and that will bring you into the moment.
Yeah. Would you do it all again, Thos?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a few things I would change, no doubt. Yeah, definitely. But then, you can't. I don't look back. I'm very happy where I am right now. I'm an optimist. Yeah, for sure.
What advice would you give to anybody setting out in this trail, or indeed? Look, you can swap the road skiing for business, for anything. What advice would you give people?
I think that
for chasing their dreams.
Yeah, I think that live the dream. don't chase the dream, because if you're chasing something, it gives the idea that it's not achievable and that you're always in pursuit of that. Whereas if you are the dream and you live the dream and you take personal responsibility for where you are in that situation, whether it's, if you choose to be a business person, you have to accept that, like, it might not work. And you have to accept that this was your choice. And everything that we do is our own personal choice, and we've chosen that path. So don't listen to people when they're saying you can't do this and you can't do that. You know, if it's something that you choose to do it 100%. And if it fails, well, that's okay too.
Yeah. Thos, look, it's been magic is the word, you know. Thanks for sharing the magic, you know. And Thos Foley, Olympian, thanks for coming in to banter at the counter. It's been great talking to you. It's been great talking to you too, John. I wasn't sure what to expect, so I came in with an open heart and an open mind, and I'm really delighted to see you today, and I hope your listeners enjoyed the banter. Sure, it's just a chat, really. It is, and there's a lot of good pointers in that, and I hope people enjoy it, and I'm sure they will, you know. Look, thanks so much, Thos, and good luck in the future and in the coaching and whatever you choose to do, yeah? Been great. Delighted to have been here, thank you. Well, folks, that's it, unfortunately. We've reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us and listening. And if you want to hear more from us, please subscribe to our podcast. And details on how to do that are on our Facebook page, Banter at the Counter, and soon on www.banteratthecounter.com. Also hit us up on Twitter and Instagram if you want to keep in touch. So until next time, mind yourselves, please stay safe and be positive.